which, as you see, is the theme of the Open for Adventure, to represent the topography, the open space, the natural play, history of Bellevue, and to create an identity for the parks within the city of Bellevue as a destination for the entire region. So the park plan began by the city saying, we understand we have a park system today that a large percentage of park land, but access is somewhat limited, and how do we get our hands around the long-term maintenance and improvements in a systematic way. And then the plan needed to have this balance of setting a vision for the future of parks in Bellevue and their connectivity to one another, and again as a destination, but also thinking about the day-to-day operations of a park system. And so we were fortunate to have a working group made up of Gogan, Palm, Angela, Courage, Shada, SC Mark Elbert, and Doug Clark, the former Public Works Director. We were working with this group about every other week for 18 months on the plan. And then we had a leadership committee, steering committee, on the council here with Councilman Burns, part of the steering committee, and the planning commission, which we presented to last month, had Commissioner Jacobson and Cusworth on the steering committee. And it's kind of members of the public, business community, the Chamber of Commerce, nonprofit organizations, so part of that, and off the Air Force Base. And throughout the project, these kind of themes kept coming up about who are we listening to, and how are we investing, centering the voice of the community. So through that, interviewed each council member here before, and did about 35 stakeholder interviews. Met with the police department, met with the parks maintenance staff multiple times to just get their input on what day-to-day park maintenance look like, what are they seeing in the community. And we had a part of this project, and that beginning piece was to go out and evaluate every piece of park equipment in all 55 parks. That an engineer would evaluate that and give a rating, look at a map. It would be an interactive map that's provided to the city of Bellevue to maintain and keep track of. In addition to that, we had a number of surveys for the public and workshops and engagement part of this project, and ultimately taking all that input and setting the direction and aligning all of those ideas. The kind of the main impetus to the plan is this out here, there's the 55 parks, which that number of parks is 2 times the national average. When we think about the acres, the overall size of parks, it's 9 times average acres per park, and for the residents as compared to other cities of the size. When you look at all the land in Bellevue, 756 acres represents 14% of the entire city of Bellevue's land. And we took a further look at that as to what other percentage of the city of Bellevue is in either public use of some kind, and ended up being about 22% of the city's land was dedicated to public non-taxable space. So with that, kind of led the community. I mentioned the interviews and workshops. We had workshops in the community. On the day before or after those workshops, we held kind of open office hours at public spaces like coffee shops or libraries or universities or the Reed Community Center to just get more input. If someone couldn't make it to one of those workshops, we'd be there all day listening to the community and getting their input, or farmers markets and other public events. And we had a website, Do Tell Bellevue, a site that was used throughout the entire project. Had a lot of interaction, kind of digital surveys, and about over 1,000 people on an email list communicating to on the project. And throughout all of that, the themes that continue to come up around what needs are being met, concerns, maintenance and safety, and predictability, knowing where these parks are, the accessibility and visibility of those, and then what needs are not being met today, what kind of amenities would you like to see used that sort of came up over and over again. So we broke the city of Bellevue up into 6 zones. You kind of see this, you represent a portion of these zones: Fontenelle, Old Town, and the South Plains zone east of Highway 75, west of 75 is the Northwest zone, West Central, and Southwest. And that helped us to organize the parks and see how many of each type of park, whether it's a regional park, a community park, or a neighborhood park, were in each one of those, and how many parks, acres, amenities were in each one of those, and how do we balance that system? Where is there redundancy in the system? Were there parks where there's similar amenities at a park that might be up a block away? So take a look at that analysis. So overall, then in the end, this we have as high-level recommendations. One, how do we increase funding from the CFP for parks that come from grants, looking at other forms of revenue to put into the parks, and then just kind of maintaining the current system and then increasing the funding to add additional amenities to the parks. And then developed a 6-year plan to plan, fund, and then build. And so there's park improvements continually throughout the system every year. And the capital improvement plan that goes out for 6 years. And it's based on the budget we know of today, and meeting with Jim Shada and city staff on what is it and where can we find improvements to put in that plan. And then one of the first things to do is thinking about communication and wayfinding. So how do we communicate with the residents of Bellevue what's happening within the parks? How do they get to those parks and what amenities are available? And so I'll show you in a moment. We have a digital map that has every amenity in the park. So somebody could go onto the Bellevue website and go to the parks page and be able to say, I'd like to book where's a park that has a shelter, if I'd like to have a picnic. They can find that today. And then creating more themes and better signage throughout the city of Bellevue where to find parks that are in the neighborhoods. So then we kind of have this kind of key theme around connectivity and accessibility. We've heard this over and over again, and so wanted to think about building out a trail system that really connects those parks, and then seeing parks as corridors, connecting all these parks together so that it's easier to get around within a neighborhood or across different neighborhoods to maybe a park that's outside of your neighborhood that has a certain amenity type that you would like to have. So that was a theme. We have a number of future amenities that don't exist today in Bellevue. We heard from the public and put together a budget for that and recommendations to where those amenities might be, such as building like climbing structures and more splash pads or natural play areas, and in the trail system, and pickleball, futsal courses. So all things that we wanted based on the info we received from the public, and new amenities for the region to attract more people to the Bellevue parks. So with that, we kind of have a park profile page, park layout for each park that has a map of it. It's a series of recommendations in that park, and then a park utilization score. How well is it being used today? The design, the amenities, connectivity, and accessibility. And then we have design standards that are based on national best practices through the Recreation and Park Association, based on is this a neighborhood park, community park, or regional park. I mentioned a few of those new park amenities. One thing that's come up over the years is at 36 K Park, Daniel Farm, a recreational park that include a lake and a trail around it, but dog parks and pickleball and open space, and you kind of see in the rendering might be someone kayaking in that lake, and it'd be somewhat similar to like Walnut Creek. There are a number of times people say they would need to leave Bellevue to experience some of the park desires that they had. They weren't able to do that within the city of Bellevue. So access to water was another key component. So this is on the west side of the city. growth, and this is one of the kind of key features. To do all of that, when you think about if based back to that, the number of parks per capita, and the original kind of getting our kind of hands around the system, we wanted to think through with the city, what would be criteria, how would we decide what parks to invest in? And so with that, developed criteria around what are the parks that today maybe aren't being used as well, or might be an opportunity to do something else with those parks. And so to develop this criteria through this analysis of are there amenities within a nearby park within a 10-minute walk with that park that someone could go to? And would there be a different use? Could it be donated to the school district? Could it be provided to a nonprofit organization or a senior living facility, such as Hebrew? And so these would be just recommendations. If the city were to, down the road, be interested in looking at that, this represents 17 acres of parks of the overall 756 acres. These would be some parks that you could look at doing the recommendation by, no means is it that these parks are closing today. This would be a recommendation. If these are parks you want to investigate further to decide a different use for. Like I mentioned, the school district is one for Gilder, right next to the school, perhaps the school district could take that over and still be used for the park. In fact, a number of times we heard from council members that there's a lot of residents don't really know that they're in a park it might be the school's playground equipment, but and could we combine that? Where's there opportunities to integrate some of these parks that with the school district? I mentioned the GIS database, it's an interactive map here that you'd be able to search by the type of park you'd like to go to, or the type of experience, and then it would filter out where is that park, how far away is it from where you live today. And that would be, again, kind of in that increased wayfinding communication would be one of the key tools. And this is really based on some of the examples we saw in other peer communities, and really, again, kind of enhancing that interaction between the public and the city on park experiences. So then to kind of get to that, we had 3 different funding scenarios, kind of trend scenario, we left everything alone, just kept spending what you spend today, where do you end up in the future? You have a moderate increase in funding, about an additional 25%, which we made up of through grants and other fee opportunities, and then reallocation of resources today. Then we're still, even with that, which is the preferred budget scenario, Bellevue is still below the lowest quartile in in park spending in cities similar size. So it's a step in the right direction. It's one that, based on all of our input we received from the public and all the council members and the working group, is the one that's most preferred. Let's wrap up with that saying this Parks Master Plan needs to be coordinated with other plans. So it would be used as a reference for the upcoming comprehensive plan and long-range transportation plan. The recent Fork Creek Road redevelopment plan, we took that into consideration and incorporated some of the recommendations that were in the redevelopment plan, as well as American Heroes Park and other existing park plans. And then the state parks comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, and as you see on the joint land use plan as well. So that's the end of the presentation that happens.